Hi, you are watching SightsIn Plus, and this is Romesh first. Please to subscribe the channel for the HR news, for HR updates, and conversation with the top now CHROs, thought leaders, and business heads. Today, we will try to dive deep how the generative AI is transforming the hiring process. Generally, if you look at the hiring process, so there are four stages, I think. So first, that is the sourcing of candidate. I can say how you attract the candidate. Second, that is your selection process, your screening process. And third, that is your decision making process of when you float the offer. And fourth, that is the onboarding process. So keeping in mind, we will try to discuss that how the generative AI is impacting these all the processes. And we have two very senior HR leaders. Let me introduce Mr. Nikhil Morade. He is a global head HR technology and HR shared services at Cipla, and Mr. Mohit Sharma is head talent acquisition at KPMG in India. And very first, I would like to know your opening comments, like how do you see that generative AI is transforming the hiring process?
Ramesh, firstly, thank you very much for having me here. It's a subject which is of great interest to us, and I'm sure many other fellow industry colleagues as well. See, Gen AI, to my mind, and at least in my personal point of view, has the adoption has been much faster compared to what we were expecting, or some of the other technologies which we witnessed in the past, right? Especially in the talent acquisition space, most of the talent acquisition leaders, and at least the people I speak to, more or less quite invested on exploring and leveraging this technology to solve problems. And this cuts across the recruiting life cycle, right from the talent attraction engagement to sourcing to screening interviews throughout the process. I mean, we certainly see a lot of use cases where we could leverage this technology to get better.
Yeah, Nikhil, I think Mohit has also talked about the adoption of generative AI. So with the opening
Yeah.
comment, if I trust on the Gartner, so we have seen around 75% of the companies, maybe 80% as well. There are also a couple of surveys that are talking about 80%, 75 to 80% companies they're using the AI tools for the hiring. For the generative AI, I'm not sure that maybe from 8% to 10% or so just started. So if you can also share your opening remarks with the adoption of the generative AI in hiring process.
So first of all, thank you, Romesh, for this opportunity. So, see, I think from a generative AI standpoint, there are some interesting data points from the researchers. So one research says that so basis whatever work gets done across the industry, across functions, largely 50 to 60% of work can get potentially automated using generative AI. So that is one. And some of this research are backed by a lot of data crunching, etc., etc. Now, the second thing is if 50 to 60% of work at one point of time will get automated, where are the organizations or different enterprises on that journey right now? So the another interesting data point on this is most of the organizations, so 50 to 60% again, organizations are actively thinking on embarking on the journey of generative AI. There are few organizations which are slightly couple of steps back in terms of they want to get their houses in order, etc., etc. But there are large number of organizations which are contemplating on different generative AI use cases. And a lot of these use cases span through wherever we see a huge activity, specifically when it comes to human resources, huge activity that gets churned out. So one is the area of obviously a talent acquisition. Second is an area of any candidate becomes an employee, in terms of how that talent can be well placed in the organization. So a lot of generative AI use cases around that. The third potential AI is, since a lot of data organizations have collected, what generative AI can come and do with that data. So two, three areas where a lot of organizations are currently contemplating.
Thank you, Nikhil. Mohit, if you see right now, yeah, today there's also news that OpenAI has maybe they can launch soon also the Chat GPT fifth version. So that is also maybe a lot of things are going on currently in generative AI space. So as a talent acquisition professional, Mohit, what would be your comment that what are the most practical applications you see in hiring space with the generative AI?
So Ramesh, like I mentioned in my previous comment, we certainly see Gen AI playing a vital role cut across the cycle, and I think there are multiple, of course, use cases across the life cycle. We may be thinking, and there could be more use cases to come through, but some of the common ones I'm sure many of us must be aware of. One is on the advanced sourcing. Automated sourcing itself, wherein the Gen AI can be leveraged to fetch the right resumes, to generate job descriptions itself. And just not about generating job description, the tone of the job description bases the audience is what you can tweak as well. It could also help to generate screening questions, which recruiters can then equip with to ask right relevant questions, interview questions. It could help to draft policies, emails, personalized as well. And I just think of it in a very interesting use case. We're going to the campuses and we need to have a slightly different pitch altogether to the campuses, to the students. You could have a standard pitch, but then Gen AI can actually help you to fine tune that pitch, especially keeping the campus audience in mind, right? So there's a lot happening in this. There are multiple use cases. We ourselves actually have been dwelling into one or two such use cases at this point of time.
Yeah, absolutely. Mohit, JD creation, job ads, the automated resume screening, and if you look at the employer perspective, so of course this is also helping into preparing the resume as well. Nikhil, if I look at the screening part, so recently we did a small survey and we put here 3-4 points. But maximum vote what we have received it is around 69-70% votes, and here the people are saying that the major role what they say in generative AI how it is going to transform. So that is into automated resume screening. What is your take on this?
I think Ramesh, slightly with us, we are selling in a different boat right now. So our thought process is slightly different, and I'll tell you what our thought process is. So first of all, from a generative AI standpoint in the recruitment cycle, the way we are looking at it is that first of all, if you really want to take an advantage of sourcing or screening to be automated, there are some prerequisites which need to be sorted, which is the first prerequisite is you should have a well-defined job description in place. Unless you have a job description in place, otherwise it's, because of an issues in the job description, even a powerful screening engine will not work. So first of all, our thought process is to kind of work in that area because we think that that's a very prerequisite step for you to take up any advanced stages like automating screening, etc. So that is point number one. So a lot of our generative AI use cases currently are revolving around how we can increase the accuracy of few very important elements in the process. So for example, how JDs can be well written. Second is how questions can be well written, because again, that's across multiple organizations, that's also a struggle in terms of how much standardization of question can happen, how much the accuracy of question against that proper role can happen, all of that. So we are looking at those use cases fundamentally. Now, when it comes to screening and sourcing, I think in the whole journey, slightly that's at a level when you have become matured in leveraging all of these tools. So a couple of years back, not with generative AI, but using the regular machine learning models, etc., we had done a lot of pilots in terms of screening of resumes basis the profiles available versus the job descriptions available, etc., and we have not seen much of a success. Okay, and again, the reason a lot of success didn't come back was because fundamentally some of things were not right. The other thing, as we speak, what we are also figuring out as an organization and trying to mitigate is, as organizations are gearing up to revamp their JDs using some of these tools, etc., etc., candidates are also using this tool to write up their resumes. So you could now see a lot of standardization happening even in the resume. So we see a lot of resumes being written through ChatGPT for same kind of a role, and you almost would see a same synergies coming up in those resumes. So Right now, one of the things that we are looking at as an organization is how do we mitigate those risks where we are able to identify and flag off some of these things in the organization. And slightly for us, the screening part of is going to be at the advanced stage in the process. The other areas where we are kind of working on in terms of hiring is, there's a lot of small steps in the process of talent acquisition. So, for example, once you have a position empty or you want to fill a role and you have a position in place, the whole thing starts in the organization of going and raising a job requisition against a position. Or let's say you want to offer, right? So there's a whole process of how an offer gets created in the organization. So we are also trying to use generative AI elements in this, which can easily speed up the process, slightly integrate with your, ready to use devices, etc., and speeden up these processes in the organization. So this is what, our take right now is, Romesh.
And Mohit, what would be your take on this survey if I read it for you? So I put here the question basically that how is generative AI is revolutionizing the hiring process. So we have received around 69% votes for the automated resume screening, and 9% votes for the diversity and bias reduction, and 14% votes for finding the right candidates, and 9% votes for candidate assessment. What is your take on this survey?
My assessment on this is the usage of this technology is going to be largely on the screening side and less of fetching relevant resumes. And I just want to pick up a good point came from Nikhil. When you're fine tuning the system, let's say using a GenAI to scan a bulk of resumes, candidates also getting smarter because a lot of technology they have an access to get their resumes build the way a machine works at the employer end, right? In fact, I was having a conversation with one of my industry colleagues yesterday on the same topic that, while we are putting up a system to scan resumes basis the historical data, basis the keywords, etc., candidates know what exactly the employer is putting in place and they are framing their resumes basis that, right? So I think the shift is going to get more in terms of screening rather than just fetching resumes. It's my sense, and I think like I mentioned, it's also about generating some relevant interview questions, engaging with candidates on that, personalization of engagement with candidates, especially at the time of post-offer stage, right? And how do you really personalize your engagement with candidates? That bit of it would possibly see far more advances. Say bias, let's admit this will continue. We will never will have this piece which will be bias free fully. There would be an element of bias which will remain, right? However, the good news is the Gen AI, of course, could be trained using the unbiased data, and as you could know that the job descriptions which it could generate could also be absolutely gender bias. It could be bias free keywords as well, right? Similarly, the objective, it's the assessments also which GenAI can be has been doing is absolutely objectivity bringing in, right? I mean, there is less of subjectivity, there's more objectivity. There are certain elements on which they scans it. So I think largely the bias element would be addressed by this technology, but let's admit it, it's not going to be 100% free.
Right. Nikhil, what is your take on this when we talk about the biases in hiring process? Generally, we expect that generative AI may help into mitigating the biases in hiring process. But is generative AI itself is bias immune? That is a big question. So because that is generative AI is working on the basis of data, what the data is available there, and data is already fed by the human being. So that is bias immune. This is a big question. What is your take on this, Nikhil?
See, I think fundamentally all of this, even including like machine learnings, etc., even the generative AI is on the maturity journey right now. So as we stand today, whether generative AI, you take any LLMs or you take any, generative AI offerings by even the big tech companies right now, is it safe to say whether they have eliminated the biases completely? The answer is no. So that's the work in progress, right? Now, the good thing is that everyone has become very conscious. So all of these tech players have become very conscious in terms of if they want to offer generative AI, they will have to bring in an element of responsible AI in that. So that's also something that has been done. So where it stands right now is the biases are not eliminated. The responsible AI elements are coming in, those are getting matured. There are laws getting defined, there are frameworks, guidelines getting defined, both at a community level, at a global level, and even a lot of organizations are also started taking some proactive steps in defining or guardrails around all of this. Okay, so I would say that all of this is work in progress. Whether we can completely rely on generative AI to make those decisions of eliminating the biases, the answer is no right now. Even if you implement some of these tools and technologies, you will have to have your own layer of reviews and governance to ensure that there is no slippages in this area. So that's where Romesh it stands right now.
A structured hiring process is very important. The panel that should be also, well trained and, well defined, the things that is also very important to meet with the
Absolutely.
hiring expectation when we are talking about the technology. Yeah, technology to a certain extent maybe can help. Yeah, please, Mohit, please.
I was just
Add.
thinking loud about this on this theme when Nikhil was talking. Um, so one of the use cases for Gen AI to address bias is actually could be like a silent listener in an interview and identify those bias during assessments and then actually give recommendations back saying that these are certain elements of bias which at least the machine has observed as part of an interview process, and thereby you kind of take the benefit of a technology to address biasness in the process.
Right. So I think we have discussed, how to source the people about the GD and about little bit about the interview process and how it is helping into the biases to make it little bias neutral at least, if not bias free. Let's uh, try to make bias neutral somehow. Another important aspect is how we can keep engaged with the candidate once the candidate is selected. Maybe engaged, and it takes little time to take a decision that we need to that we are going to offer to this candidate or not. A lot of the stakeholders are involved in this decision making. Is there any tool that can also help you with the generative AI in engaging this period of time with a candidate?
See, like the one point which I brought up earlier as well is on the personalized engagement. Gen AI, of course, can play a role. And without naming, there was actually a technology, a product player 6, 7 years back who actually started the whole concept of personalized engagement. Gen AI can actually play a role to have that customized engagement with candidates, right? It could be then if you actually feed a lot of data about your own employer and having an access to a candidate actually can seek all relevant information, can get insights about the organization without even having a conversation with candidates, with recruiters, right? I mean, as simple as if I just want to know about a leave policy or find bit of the details about it and what employees say about it, and if there's if the system has been learned by using some data in the background, I could get all the insights without even making a phone call to a recruiter as a candidate, right? So thereby, I think I certainly see a reason why we should leverage and explore the possibility of using Gen AI. Are there players? I'm sure there'll be players in the market who must have adopted Gen AI and offering this to their clients. Uh, uh, do I see that's going to be a significant part of the usage? May not be. The usage is largely towards the sourcing screening side, less towards the engagement, but there are certainly use cases on the engagement as well.
Nikhil, before you add any perspective on this, I would like to also discuss about the predictive analysis. Couple of softwares are coming in the market, and these softwares are helping with the to analyze the behavioral pattern, and on the basis of this, you can somehow get culture feed and what with the performance. I don't know how accurate, but yeah, softwares are there in market. How do you see this predictive analysis role in hiring process?
Yeah, sure. See, I think the beauty with generative AI and its ability to create some of these things, right? Uh, and specifically, what we have seen in some other context is, for example, we were working on a predictive model in a space. Okay. Now, when we were doing that, typically we used to take our own approach of writing that model, doing your correlations, coming up with different frameworks, right? Trying regressions, etc., etc. And then we would decide in terms of what model or a framework would best will be best suited for that particular use case or hypothesis. This was an approach we used to take. So it was again that whole approach was not a iterative approach. Now, incidentally, as you know, time has passed by. It has become with the capability of generative AI and the amount of power it has put back into analytical processing is that you just define your data set. These tools will define what kind of model is right for that data set and will give you more optimum output. So your whole process of working on different iterations on different model and then figuring it out has completely been eliminated. So that power has come in now. So I really see the potential here. In fact, this, among all the different offerings of generative AI, this particular area, you will see really, really a lot of value add coming back quickly. And this is where, not only in HR, but any other BU or any other organization who starts using some of this capability, they will get an actual value out of it because there you can potentially think of having lesser people, but really systems doing the job for you automatically based on the data that you have. So yes, Romesh, pretty powerful stuff, and I think there is a big scope for all of this.
There is also one more important point. If you look at the current times, around 80% of the companies are using the HR technology tools, but not integrated with the generative AI. So important point is that how these companies can start the generative AI by integrating the GenAI, the present HR technology tools what they're using.
So, best of my knowledge, many of these, and let's talk about ATS, application tracking system. Most of the key players in the market have already started adopting it. So it becomes like a part of this overall package, right? I'm taking an example. If you look at an ATS, a traditional ATS um, of helping recruiters to advertise, get a job description in, advertise a role. That's where they're bringing GenAI, that instead of you using the job description you receive from a hiring partner, you rather click a button, do a prompt, click a button, generate generate a JD and advertise it, right? So what is happening is the existing landscape of technology solutions which are already available, the players have been advancing and fitting in Gen AI pieces in between. Yeah, right from, especially in the recruitment space, right from generating a JD to scanning to personalized connections and engagement with candidates, all is that getting baked in, right? So earlier, when we were looking for a search and match engine, when with using Power AI, the product used to come purely only on the search and match engine. Now, most of the product offerings in the market come with a combination of generating a job description to generating screening questions to scanning resumes to assessments using an AI powered bot, all of that put together. So that's why I think this naturally the Gen AI is getting fitted into the overall landscape.
Any other quick comment, Nikhil?
So I think this is particularly a couple of dimensions comes in here. So what is your overall strategy? And second and more important is in terms of overall strategy. What it means is fundamentally, like Mohit said, is a lot of the tech players themselves are embedding generative AI in different capacity right now in the platforms. So one way is whatever tools and technologies you use, whatever generative AI capabilities are coming in, you start using them. The another way is perhaps you slightly take a bigger approach, saying that while the platforms or players will give me capabilities on generative AI, I want a holistic generative AI to run across my life cycle. Let's say from right from talent acquisition, not only till hiring, but even let's say to the end of the life cycle, right, towards the separation or exit. So there, then it becomes a slightly an architectural conversation. Okay. So when it comes with a partner, it's easy, right? You're just getting it out of the box. The conversation then shifts that how you get it adopted in the organization. And in the later case, what happens is then you will have to really kind of do a deep work in terms of figuring it out, what kind of LLM support, because now again you want to kind of play with one partner, or you want to have a hybrid approach like different organizations would have taken for cloud, right? Whether you want to kind of bank everything on with one tech provider, or you want to take a hybrid approach. So same way, today most tech players are coming with a different strength and portfolio. So whether you want to use one player or you want again a hybrid approach. Second is, if you're looking at holistically, what it means is you will have to create a layer which will have which will include a lot of data exchanges. So you will need those capabilities of infra, push and pull, etc., etc. So I think the another part will essentially depend on the strategy that you drive for your organization.
I have one more very important question, Mohit, I think, discuss with you. Uh, uh, Generally, when we're talking about generative AI, so that may be for the hiring, the process of HR. So the ethical concerns are also there, and there are certain some risk with the generative AI when we are talking about. How do you see how we can work on this? These ethical concerns and some risk of the generative AI.
So I think it would be, the not so good news is all technology solutions do come with element of risk. So is Gen AI, nothing new about it. The risk could be, as simple as what we often been hearing in the media is on the deepfakes, to data privacy issues, to cyber threats, to ethical issues. So, it's a wide range of risk which we have been dealing with today. Barring the fact that it also notionally comes as a threat to some of the specific job profiles in the market, especially let's say it could be a threat to the people who do talent sourcing today, right? But then there are, of course, ways to address this is largely by creating awareness, running with learning interventions, by establishing control points, by also by virtue of how do you really train the data and where you can actually put a limit to it. So again, if you look at some of the product offering, that could limit to only a data tenant restricted to your organizations or to outside. So how do you really train the system as well? Establishing some ethical guidelines. I think all of that put together is what I could best think of is to address risk, which comes into play leveraging this technology.
Nikhil, any of your final comments? We are also at the end of time right now.
Yeah, so see, I think there is a good saying, right? With a greater power comes greater responsibilities. I think same goes in generative AI. Immense powerful. It has to be used with greater responsibility. So that is one. The second thing is, again, it's a very good balance that an organization will have to play. So it's a the balance between creativity and control. There is no end to creativity, but at the same time, what kind of controls you bring in, I think that's the balance organizations will have to draw. The third and important thing is, as you know, organizations are to the previous point, right? You are strategizing in terms of how generative AI will come in, maybe across the TS cycle or across the hire to retire life cycle. One of the decision point as well, which will be very important, is how much of control an organization gets in the LLM as well. So we will select, let's say, we would want to select some LLMs which will allow us some control as well, right? In terms of ring fencing our data, in terms of protecting in IP rights, etc., etc., etc. And like Mohit said, a lot of it will require a lot of shifts in skill sets, etc. A lot of training, education, do's and don'ts. Again, drawing policies like we have for data privacy, etc. All of that work will have to be done to mitigate the risk here.
So, Mohit, I think we have been able to explore all the important points related to the subject, generative AI, how it is transforming the hiring process. Anything else which is important and we did not discuss here?
That's pretty much it, Ramesh. I think we certainly have to look at it in a very balanced way. Like Nikhil beautifully explained, it's always a combination of is how much you want to leverage and what controls you need to establish and do the right things. So yeah, but I think exciting journey ahead with this technology, and I see adoption is far more than some other technologies which we have seen in the past.
Thank you so much, Mohit and Nikhil, for joining the conversation and sharing your wonderful. Thank you so much.